Hello there. Bear with me a wee second, I just need to make sure that my sound's working alright here. Can everybody hear me alright? Still having issues with the sound. You guys can hear me. Good. Right, obviously got a different little setup here. I thought I would try and get through some of this and make it as concise as I possibly can. This is a kind of trial run for me to maybe fumble through this so that I can break this stuff up into little segments and make more concise uploads. I'm still seeing so many misrepresentations and, you know, a lot of incredulity amongst people. Also coupled with that, we just have downright denial and name calling and whatever else. So this is in the hopes that, you know, it's useful to some people out there and can fully comprehend the actual position rather than hearing, you know, misinformation and barefaced lies. This stuff really is not that difficult to comprehend. It's your own cognitive dissonance, it's your own incredulity that's the major factors here. So let's just get on with it and get through some stuff. First and foremost, you know, I don't want to digress too much into, you know, various aspects. So we should all comprehend that we're utilising language to convey things to each other. Now, as anybody should be aware, language is merely a noise. Language does not, you know, really define anything, truly. Language is noises, utterances in order for us to try and communicate with each other, and it's simply that. So language is not the first and foremost, but when we're utilising language, we have to really agree on certain things that we're utilising so that we can convey, you know, accurately to each other and we're not speaking past each other, alright? So anyhow, I'm just going to start with, you know, force, the word force, what a force is, and comprehending it. Now mainstream science is going to tell you that force is known as push or pull. Right. Now, these are terms that are used by us as human beings to describe certain things. So when we say push, usually, you know, we're referring to the orientation of an observer. So say you're a little observer and you have an object here and you're at this side of it and you apply a pressure here. Then you're now applying a pressure in that direction. Now, pull would be some scenario of maybe a door, right, with a little lever on it. And we access that and we bring the door in that direction, right? So this would be known as pull. Now in both cases, the mechanisms to achieve the motion are identical. They are one and the same thing. Pull is only a relative word in relation to the direction that something's going to go in. So as I've gave you the example, you know, pull the door towards you. But in both cases, the function of it, the mechanisms to achieve the motion of the object are the same, which is pressure, push. So in the scenario of a door handle, you know, you have the observer and the observer puts their hand. Now the door handle scenario is, you know, if I draw the door handle like this relative to the observer, the hand comes round here and applies a pressure here at this side, okay? And the pressure is applied in the direction of the observer, so we utilise the word pull, okay? The reality is in any given scenario, you only have push. Now, I'll go through a couple of little quick examples because the morons are always there trying to confuse people and laugh reality away. So we'll give the scenario of a cable here and we have two observers participating in what we would call tug of war. Now, the goal of tug of war, you know, because people say, oh, you can't push a rope. If you say push is the only thing, then how do you push a rope? Again, this comes to incredulity. Now, each observer has to apply pressure on the rope, right, with their hands, so you have to formulate grip. Okay, now what they have to do is they have to convert that grip in the direction towards them. Okay, both observers now have to apply grip in order to achieve the motion. Now your feet are going to be on the ground, your feet are going to be pushing into the ground in both cases. Okay, now you turn your hands and you apply pressure in the direction towards you. Now, if I was to apply some sort of grease or make this frictionless in some sense, then you trying to achieve pressure and a pressure towards you would be very difficult, because we all know what happens. Your hands are going to slide along here and you're not going to apply any force to the rope. Okay, so that's the simplicity of the whole scenario. It's very, very simple. Another one is going to be magnetism. So in the case of a magnet, and this is where, you know, magnetism's not fully understood, and this is where people go off into la la land. So if you've got two objects, one of them's a magnet and the other one's a piece of steel, for instance. Now, what we observe is one going towards the other one. Okay, so because we don't fully comprehend it, people think that they can break the laws of motion, the laws of physics. That being that if something moves, an applied pressure has to happen to it. Okay, you know, if we reduce air pressure in a certain scenario, like a vacuum cleaner, what we do is we generate a flow, because the motor that's spinning is creating a low pressure. The higher pressure surrounding it pushes in, okay, to fill that void, because we all know nature abhors a vacuum. Okay, so we understand the principles of that when you create a low pressure, the surrounding higher pressure pushes inwards, and any particulates there are going to be pushed inwards towards the chamber. Now, again, when we get to magnetism, the same principle would apply. You cannot now assert that somehow magically the magnet is making the other object go towards it. Let me just space that out a little bit. Right. So if this one's going to go towards this one, right, I'm going to ask people, okay, if you think a pulling force exists, you know, how would you explain it? How would you even draw it? How would you demonstrate a pulling force? I can demonstrate a pulling force and comprehend that the word's just a term that's related to the observer and the direction of the motion. Okay? But in regards to magnetism, people talk about magnetic fields, right? As if the magnet has some property that causes these magnetic field lines. Now, if you look at it, you could say, well, there's a flow going on. There's some sort of flow happening here, right? And if this object's within the vicinity of that flow, then it gets pushed in just like the vacuum chamber, right? Like when we create a low pressure, the higher pressure pushes into that. But again, this is just to highlight the absurdity of these people. If they want to insist that magnetism is somehow a pulling force, you know, and we understand that pull is just another name for push because it's just related to the direction of the observer, then I want you to draw it for me, because there's no way you can actually explain it. So if you think you can break the laws of reality, that being that if something moves there's an applied pressure in some direction, so we know that if this object goes in that direction, then there's going to be an applied pressure going in that direction. If this object goes to that one, then we know that there's going to be an applied pressure at play. It's the same with magnetism. You don't get to skirt over every single practical example of reality and start imagining nonsense. You know, if I wanted this to go to this, there would have to be something that comes out and applies a pressure here, right, in order for it to go in that direction. Or there's something surrounding where there's a lower pressure created here and the higher pressure pushes into that and takes this with it. Okay? There is no such thing as a pulling force. People who laugh at that are incredulous and don't comprehend the reality, and probably have some other, agenda going on with them, which is, in my case, probably because they have a them against me mentality and they just see me as some sort of opposition and they have to deny. But it just makes them look ridiculous. Okay? So, we comprehend then that there's no pulling forces in the natural world. There only is pressure variance. Something pushes something else in order to achieve motion. So, and people have heard me saying this, right, that force is motion, motion is force. Okay? Now, what we observe in reality is change. We have to make an observation, and in order to make an observation, something changes. Okay? Now, in order for something to change, there has to be motion. Okay? So, if I have an object, right, and all of a sudden that object moves to there, right, then we observed a change. It changed its position. Right? It was there and now it was there. Okay? Now we comprehend that in order for it to change its position, something external had to act on it. Let's get this clear first and foremost. Inanimate matter has no ability to do anything. Inanimate matter can only react to force which is external to it. It has no intrinsic properties. Nothing in here about any sort of dead inanimate matter can make it do anything. Doesn't have force within it, doesn't have motion within it, doesn't have any capabilities other than to just be dead inanimate matter. And if it moves its position, something acted on it. So we observe change. And as I say, change is motion. So as you see, in order for that to move to there, I had to act on it in the direction that it moved in. Okay? If it moves that way, then the force acted that way. If it moves that way, the force is acting that way. And the force is applied pressure. Okay? So we understand push-pull, we understand inanimate matter cannot move of its own volition. It only moves or stops moving because something acted upon it. Okay? So, let me just make myself a wee smoke. I'm going to take a break there and move on. See everybody there, how's it going? Street Shitter, one man beyond belief, level-headed Natalie. Nice to see you there. Sir Turdalotta, Lomond, Opinionated Glaswegian, how's it going? So, getting back to force and the examples I just gave you of the lighter. Oops. So, when we observed that the lighter moved, okay, that was me applying pressure to it. Now, in order for me to apply a pressure to it, I have to be moving. Something has to be in motion. Right? Something has to move towards it to make it move. Right? So a force in this scenario is something in motion contacting the other object and putting it in motion. Okay? Now, if I had some sort of static piece of matter here, you can say a static force if you like, and I now apply that to there, and I'm moving it, motion comes in, contacts it, puts it in motion, and then we come here. Now there's what you can say is a resistive force if you like. Okay? You can say that if you like. But when we see two surfaces pressed together, there has to be the scenario of one moving towards the other or the both. Right? So when two surfaces are pressed together, you've got options. Either the object is being pressed to this surface, this is resisting it, or this is moving to this and this is resisting it, or both are moving and cancel each other out. Okay? But for the all intents and purposes, what we're talking about today, force, if something moves, something external acts upon it, and you cannot break that. If anybody wants to assert that the object itself has some property within it that allows it to move in any direction, then, you know, you're in the realms of pseudoscience, you're in the realms of fantasy, because in reality, nobody has ever observed that. Nobody can extract this mystical stuff from the matter that you want to assert and claim that is present in order for it to move by its own volition. That's just absurd. I shouldn't have to stay on that topic. We should just be able to move past that with the comprehension that if a change occurs, something external acted on it. If we see it going in a direction, the thing acting on it is going in that direction. It's very, very straightforward, very, very simple. Okay? Before I move forward, any questions? Anybody there in the chat that denies anything so far? Let it be heard. While I'm waiting for any sort of response, I'm just going to address something else quickly. We have factions of people who always come in and try and, you know, cause factions between people in any given topic. Now, in this topic, we've got a faction of people claiming that the Earth's velocity must be increasing. It has to be an accelerating Earth reference frame. Okay? Now, these people have been addressed, and I'm going to make another quick point just to totally dispel these idiotic, silly, childish notions from people with incredulity and whatever other nonsense goes on in their mind. Now, if you have a reference frame, right, we'll just say it's the box, and this reference frame is going in that direction, right, and you're here on the surface of this. Now, these people that keep asserting that the Earth has to be accelerating, we'll get to the other aspects of that later on, but this is just to totally disband the idiotic notion that anybody can test for themselves. Okay? Now, if I have another reference frame, right, and I have a little observer in there, and that reference frame is going at a constant, right, and we'll say it's doing 100 miles per hour, right? That means that the reference frame, all its contents, you within it, are doing 100 miles per hour. Okay? Now, in this scenario here, if I wanted to now elevate upwards at say 1 miles per hour in relation to the reference frame, I would now be, if I wanted to go at 1 miles per hour up the way here, right, what would happen is that as I go 1 miles per hour, the gap between me and the surface is going to increase, and I'm going to get further and further and further away from the surface. Okay? And that can be done in reality. I can move upwards at 1 miles per hour, and the gap between myself and the surface increases, and I will get further and further and further and further away from the surface. Okay? Now, if you're in a reference frame that's in constant acceleration, that being increase in velocity, right, so your reference frame has to get faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, then me as the observer trying to move 1 miles per hour away from the surface, you would never achieve it, because you would have to be adding on the accelerated rate of your reference frame to your 1 mile an hour exponentially in order to get a distance away from the surface of the supposed accelerating Earth. Total and utter nonsense. Anybody can do this. You can get in a hot air balloon if you like and start it to rise at a steady 1 miles per hour, the gap between the hot air balloon and the ground will increase. If you're in a reference frame that's constantly accelerating with an increase in velocity, you would have to constantly accelerate quicker than the reference frame. Now, this one's reality. This one is total and utter jobby nonsense from people who are just detractors and here to try and sow division and distract from the whole relevant parts of the topic. Okay, so I don't want to hear any more nonsense about the Earth has to constantly increase its velocity. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Now, as we get further along the road, we can have an accelerated frame of reference without an increase in velocity. Now, that's always been on the table. That's always been there as a possibility, which we will get to at a later time. But for these morons that keep stating the Earth would have to keep increasing in its velocity, a simple test. Elevate up at a steady 1 miles per hour and you will get a bigger gap between you and the surface of the Earth. If the Earth reference frame was increasing its velocity, you would have to keep increasing your velocity. End of story. Don't want to hear it anymore. Okay? So, I was waiting to see if anybody had any other questions on the aspects so far. Yes, Andrew, I've been talking to the Chat GPT and it's obviously in there that it's well aware of the contradictions and the nonsense of it. What am I missing here? The use of this right now is just to convey certain aspects before we move on to the practical. Now watch these people run as soon as we start getting to these practical demonstrations, because what I'm showing you just now you have to comprehend first and foremost before we move on. Okay? Right, so while we're on the topic the force just now, since nobody had any questions in regards to the previous little aspects, what else do we know about force? Okay, so we know now that if something moves in a particular direction, then something external acted on it in that direction. Okay, now what we can also say about force is that, say we had different states of matter. Say here we had a solid. So we'll put a line here. So this is the board now that we're going to use to shove the materials. Now, if I've got, and I'm just going to illustrate, air with little dots, although that's not how air is, but I'm just going to do it for the purposes of this. And say we've got water, right? So you get water there. Now, the force that's been applied to this, the force cannot extend itself out to now access the air, the solid and the liquid, right? So that when I apply the push, the force here, it cannot simultaneously apply varying amounts of force to the air, the solid and the liquid. Okay? What happens is, due to inertia, these aspects of matter are going to resist this push. Okay, now they're going to behave very differently, right? If I now apply the push to this system here, then these materials are not going to act the same way. meaning that when I apply the push here, these materials are not now all going to move in unison together. There's an inertia at play and they're going to react very differently. Okay? The air's going to compress, the water's going to compress, the water's going to splay out to form a horizontal surface, and the denser materials are going to be here at the base of this. Okay? Now, when I try and accelerate this thing, we're going to get a displacement of all these materials, because you cannot apply force to gas, liquids and solids to accelerate them, to move them in a direction without the displacement of them occurring relative to each other. They are not bonded like a solid unit. Okay? Gas, solid and liquids are not the same. So when you hear claims that when motion, force is at play, like if I have a little vessel, right, and I've got water in it, I've got air in it, and I've got solid in it. Now as I apply that force to that, the orientation that they have, so here we have the liquid, here we have the gas, here we have the solid, right? As force is applied to that system, these three things are not going to move along with the system and stay in their relative positions to each other. They're going to displace. So as we move this, the solid having the most inertia, most resistance, is going to remain where it is. Right? And as we push this vessel forward, what's going to happen is that the solid is now going to be contacted here. You're going to have liquid here, and you're going to have air here. Okay? Now, it doesn't matter the direction that you do that in. If you now wanted to accelerate it in a different place, the orientation is now going to be solid, liquid, gas. Do it in that direction, solid, liquid, gas. Okay? There is no way that you can accelerate this system so that the contents all move in unison like a uniform solid. If I was to freeze the water so that it became a solid, now I could accelerate it and the liquid and the other solid would become one and would stay as one and move in unison. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the various states of matter. This that I'm showing you is a basic accelerometer. Okay? Now, when a claim is made that there's a force at play, which means there's a motion happening, then we can demonstrate in any given scenario that when force is at play, we're going to see it in the accelerometer. Because as if it's forced in any direction, in this direction here, what we're going to get is solid, liquid, gas. Okay? So when people are claiming that in free fall there's an acceleration towards the floor, when we actually accelerate, and you will see these in the videos, you get the same, okay, as I've just explained to you. When there's an acceleration in the downwards direction, you end up with solid, liquid, gas. Okay? That's what happens with proper, true acceleration in actual reality. Now, we've got a claim that the force is acting here, going in this direction towards the surface, and through this action we have solid, liquid, gas. This claim here is contrary to all of practical reality. This claim here is stating that it's the opposite as I have just shown you here. As I've just shown you in these examples, whatever direction the force is, you have an orientation of solid, liquid, gas, going in the direction. So we can look at it and see that the gas will always be furthest from the point of contact here, moving in this direction. Same now if I accelerate it in this direction, we get solid, liquid, gas. Then we come on to claims from Globe Earth, pseudoscience. There's a downwards acceleration, but the accelerometer displays an inversion of practical physics, a pseudo-contrary claim to all other observed examples of practical physics. Acceleration with gas, liquid, solid. Total inversion, total nonsense. Okay? Any other questions so far? Well, nothing but baseless assertions without evidence. Well, this is where the incredulity comes in. A lot of these cult members are very incredulous because a lot of the cult members, whether they be flairths or globe earthers, they don't like practical physics. They are a cult, so the majority of their beliefs is rhetorical. They are invested in language, words, conceptual notions and other gibberish. What I've just explained to you here is practical physics. It's the real world. Now let's just have a wee look and we'll just show you the real world. Let me just get one up here. Let me see here. Let's see if this is the right one. So just as I explained to you in regards to gas, liquid, solids, you'll see exactly that. Maybe my best example, let me just... You just need to bear with me, there's so many here on Andrews that... Right, so this one here is probably better. So as I just explained to you, Andrew's going to apply the force in this direction, and what you're going to see is, obviously the solid's a solid, the liquid's a liquid, the gas is the gas. Now what you're going to see is the gas move through the tube in the direction that the force is going in. So again, as it's connected to the earth, we can clearly see that the gas is moving upwards relative to us. So let's have a wee think about that. Now let's me just play this first. And now Andrew's actually accelerating this vessel downwards. So just as I had stated before, clearly seen, Andrew has the tube, we have water in it, and we have an air bubble here, and as we all know, the air bubble is on its way up. Okay, so what have we to conclude from that? Just a simple observation, as we've just shown, and we understand that the direction of the force shows the direction of these materials. Right? And then as Andrew accelerated the vessel downwards, we had the opposite. We now had the liquid here, and we had the air bubble going in this direction. Okay? So what you now have to believe in regards to a globe earth is that you've got this downwards acceleration happening, while at the same time you've got an air bubble going the opposite direction. That's no practical physics, people. That's a claim that does not exist in your reality. There is no example you can give to demonstrate that the direction that you're accelerating in, the air goes the opposite direction. It's preposterous. Okay? Not only that, as you hold it, there's a claim the force is acting downwards and you're resisting it by holding it, which is causing an air bubble to go upwards. But the minute that you release it, the air bubble freezes in relation to the vessel it's within, and now the whole system is claimed to be accelerating downwards towards the earth. Now, again, we've exampled it, shown you it, it's very, very simple. If there was true acceleration downwards, you would see the water here, and the air bubble would now be travelling the direction that the force is going in. But that's not what we witness. In free fall, the bubble freezes in its relative position to the vessel it's within. Okay? You see the air bubble changing its direction. You know then that Andrew is applying force to it to accelerate it in that direction, because 100% of the time that's what will happen. Now here, as he puts it into free fall, just as I just explained here, the air bubble now has no orientation, has no factor to tell it what direction to go in. It remains in its relative position until impact, and then again you will see that it ensues on its trajectory upwards. So in the scenario here, what people imagine and believe is that you've got two vectors happening simultaneously, right? And I'll use William's example in a little second just to show you that in the van. Nope, sorry, I wasn't screen sharing there, sorry. I'll just go back. So you can see here, connected to the earth, moving upwards. Now as Andrew accelerates the vessel downwards, boom, the air bubble goes the direction of the acceleration. Now people can cry and whinge and moan and call names and say this, that and the other. This is practical real world physics that every single person can recreate for themselves. There's no trickery. You don't need to listen to anybody. You can just simply make yourself a little vessel, record it, witness what actually happens, and then you will comprehend your reality a little bit better. If you're still listening to people and morons in comments and chats trying to influence your perceptions, then you're part of the problem. Okay? You do not need any other man or woman to tell you anything. Okay? You can hear what I'm saying, you can witness the practical examples, and you can go and you can recreate them. Again, free fall, the air does not, there is no separation between the two, because there's no active force here. There's nothing pushing on it to push it in any sort of direction whatsoever, other than the air which is pushing up on the vessel slightly, but it's not enough to cause a buoyant effect. Okay? So in this example here, you can see the inversion when the force is at play. As Andrew holds it, you have the air bubble rising, and this here appears to be going down. Now that's an apparent motion, this going down, and I'll explain that to you in a little second. As Andrew now accelerates it downwards, just as I explained to you earlier, as Andrew accelerates it downwards, what do we end up with? We end up with the solid being here, the liquid here, and the air here. and you can see the air bubble moving in that direction. Okay? Now, the ball bearing, when Andrew's holding it, and you can see the air bubble moving upwards, it appears that the steel ball is sinking, but it's not. The steel ball's lost its upward momentum. The whole vessel now is pushing up past this, and I'm going to give you a little example of this. I'm going to jump to William's channel, just bear with me a wee second here. In fact, I'm just going to play that and let you see that again. Another example that other people have recreated that you can recreate yourself. Clearly there for everybody to recreate and comprehend the physics of your reality. It's no difficult. You don't have to believe anything. It doesn't have to be complicated in your mind. The only thing that's complicated is your cognitive dissonance based on your beliefs, presuppositions, your wants, your wishes, your desires. Okay? They are your subjectiveness. They are in no way or shape related to actual physical reality. If you're making claims about physical reality, you should be able to demonstrate them in a physical arena. These other claims that we're hearing cannot be demonstrated in a physical arena. The claims you're hearing here are backed by demonstration, because what's conveyed to you here is actual reality. Now, as we come on to this next one, this is in relation to what I just stated a minute ago about the little steel ball bearing in the vessel and how it's an apparent motion. Now, the apple here has more inertia, a greater resistance to change motion. Okay? Now, if this panel here was glass, and outside of that you had a wall with lines marked on it like this, I'm just going to show you just so that I can make it clear for you. Let me just wipe this away. So if we had a wall outside of the van with lines marked on it like this, and you had the van here, okay, don't laugh at my drawing of a van, it's just going to be quite straightforward, okay, right, wheel there, right, we can see the apple hanging, okay, we can also see a helium balloon, okay. Now, as William accelerates the van in that direction, you see the helium balloon actually moves that direction. The apple remains where it is and looks like it's swung back to here, okay? But if you had the glass panel and you observed this line in relation to the apple, you would see that as the van moves along here, the apple remains where it is, and obviously the string now is going to be here in the van as the van moves forward. So the apple is eventually going to be contacted by the back of the van and now pushed in that direction. The apple did not move backwards, just the same as a little ball bearing, right? Because it has an upward trajectory, right? Now as the upward trajectory is there as it's connected to the earth, okay? The steel ball bearing has its inertia. Air is being pushed upwards in the vessel as it remains in its relative position. Now, as the vessel comes up, the base of the vessel now contacts the solid and pushes it the direction that the vessel is going in. Okay? So, visually, to you, it looks like there's two simultaneous motions going on. Now again, you cannot have two simultaneous opposing motions from one force. It's ridiculous. The apple merely remains at rest, okay, due to its inertia, which we'll come to at a later time. Okay? The helium balloon has been impacted by the compression of air and has a true motion in that direction. The apple does not, it has an apparent motion. As I say, if you had lines marked, if this was transparent and you had a line marked on a board outside of the van, right, and as the van accelerated, you would see that the apple remained in a line with the outside apparatus, as you would see the helium balloon move forward away from that line. Yes, and as William has put here, motionless earth physics or globe earth physics also, multi-directional vector. Nonsense. You would have to have two forces. In order for you to have buoyancy and density being two true motions, you would need a force acting in that direction while simultaneously another force acting through it going in the opposite direction. That's preposterous. Total and utter nonsense. Just another example. As soon as William lets it go, now there is no compression. This here still has its inertia. Okay. Very simple. Let me just come back. Any questions so far? I can see people are obviously caught up in the chat box with some more on. Again, I just want to offer this up here right now. There's many factions of people who are trying to sow division, and I'm not really interested in that. I'm not trying to be popular and own anything. I can see the absence of certain characters around here who are trying to splinter this and move it in different directions for whatever reason. But again, I'm going to tell you, I do not have any affiliation to anybody. I do not have any issues with anybody. I'm merely here presenting, reality as it is, and people who are trying to formulate movements or little cult sects and groups and splinter groups are for the watching. Okay, they're just manipulative and up to no good. Okay, you don't need to be part of a group here. You don't need to have the acceptance or validation from anybody. Your validation comes from practical reality when you go and recreate these things. Test it for yourself and witness it for yourself. Okay? If you then want to keep denying it, that's on you. Okay? But the chances are, if you're intellectually honest with yourself, you're going to recreate these things and arrive at the very same conclusions that I have. Okay? Yes, Natalie, it's very, very obvious what's happening and going on around this. As I say, you can see what's happening. People trying to splinter it up and segregate people from each other and sow division amongst people. Listen, this is objective reality. There is no need for different camps. If these camps are not willing to come to the table and unify and have the discussion as a unified group, then as I say, they're for the watching. Because objective reality is singular. It's not there to be won or lost by some cult group of well, I've got 10 people in my group and you've got 2 people in your group. That's not how it functions. This is not the fucking kiddies playground anymore. Okay? This topic has ruined all the others for me. As soon as a truther can't grasp this, I instantly know they are on task. Nobody is so stupid that they couldn't understand this. Well, exactly, and you've got people like Jeranism recently who tries to take some sort of intellectual high ground. Right, now I had a conversation with this guy Jeranism, which I might put back up on this channel. It was on Nat Chiquetta's channel, and it's very apparent the disingenuous nature of these people, because this is simple physics, very, very simple to recreate, very, very simple to convey, and these people like Jeranism were acting dumb, maybe because he is dumb, while at the same time he now tries to sit on some intellectual high horse as if he has the upper hand over people. Again, people like him were advocates and pushers of a particular narrative, a particular model. Okay? Now again, this has separated the wheat from the chaff as far as I'm concerned. It exposes these people and their little agendas, because people can shout about the sun observations all they like. The fact of the matter is that both globe Earth and stationary flat Earth requires physical downwards acceleration, which does not exist in actual reality. A globe Earth does not get off the drawing board without physical downwards acceleration. It's end of story. So this is real practical physics, no conceptual, mathematical interpretations of intangible phenomena, that being the luminaries, that you're trying to make fit your presuppositional model. Okay? That's a whole other game. What you cannot escape from is that your globe Earth requires it, make no bones about it, pay attention, requires physical downwards acceleration. Yes, Andrew, game over. There'll be many people that will just avoid this, because many people have succumbed to the propaganda, the naysayers, the incredulous knee-jerkers who have emotionally reacted to this and have solidified themselves in the forever derp world, who will not pay any attention to this and act like it doesn't exist. Now, if they were to be intellectually honest and pay attention to what's being conveyed to them here, they would be able to grasp this, and they would eradicate their incredulity and their misrepresentation, their propaganda tactics. But they don't. So again, as I repeated earlier, they're for the watching. So, we're going to now move on to what we observe in actual reality, and, align what's observed in actual reality with claims that are being made. Okay? Now, what I've already shown you, something simple. Like you at your table and having a vessel with water in it, and you witness an air bubble rise through the water in that direction. Okay? So, what we have then is, I've already pointed out the globe. Okay? The globe wants you to believe there's a force acting in that direction, and when this vessel reaches the surface, there's a resistive factor, right? Not a motion, just a resistance that somehow magically causes air bubbles to go against the direction of the force that's acting, right? When in practical physics you can dispel that notion, because the air will go the direction of force regardless of the direction. If it's that direction, you've got water here, the air bubble is going to move in that direction. Okay? Not the opposite. The globe Earth wants you to believe that you accelerate it in a particular direction, and what you have is solids, liquids and gas. Not only that, that you've got an air bubble rising opposed to the motion vector. Now, This is simple. You can demonstrate this right now and witness what happens. You can also actually physically accelerate it downwards and witness what happens. You're going to have solid, liquid, gas, and you're going to have air bubbles going in that direction. Okay, end of story. Done. Nonsense. Okay. Now we've got stationary flat earthers. Stationary flat earthers. One rung up on the stupid ladder from globe earthers. Okay. Globe earthers at least try to convey some sort of sensibility, although as we've just demonstrated and explained, it's total and utter nonsense. Right? You don't have to be PhD, you had 10 years at university. You can get a simple accelerometer and demonstrate the claims and see that they've got an inverted claim to what true physics shows you. Okay? So now we've got a stationary Earth. Let's try and make sense of this. So there's a few things I'm going to point out here with the stationary Earth, right? So we've got a stationary Earth, somehow it's on pillars or something. So we've to now imagine we've got this sort of depiction, and I'm not going to draw it as a dome, right? So we've got some sort of containment here on pillars or something, that, and I don't know what's outside it, right? They like to ask me questions about what's outside the reference frame and stuff, and if I don't have answers, then that negates practical physics, because again, they're just cult members, they're in a cult mindset and they're trying to evade and avoid. So we can ask questions of, well, what's outside your Earth? You know, what's your pillars sitting on? You know, and what's the thing that the pillars are sitting on, and yada yada yada, and if you don't have an answer, then and stuff for whatever reasons, right? But we've got a stationary Earth, right? Now we've got a vessel here on a stationary Earth, so there is no vector, there is no motion, nothing. Right? Now we've got a vessel of water and we've got air bubbles rising in that direction. How do we explain that? JC, I heard QE say last night that the argument that brought him to FE was no gas pressure without a container. The exact same reasoning should also bring you to Earth's motion, but nope. Exactly. These people are hypocrites. You know, these people have stated for years that you can't have gas pressure without a containment. We have gas pressure, therefore the Earth's a contained system. Okay? They never went out into nature and varied their container or any of that stuff. No, they had it on a smaller scale, some practicality. They demonstrated it to themselves. They comprehend that in order for you to have an increase in pressure relative to another medium of pressure, you have to have a solid barrier around it. You know, so if I've got, you know, a vessel, you know, with higher pressure in here and there's a lower pressure surrounding it, then it only maintains its higher pressure because of the solid barrier surrounding it. The minute I remove that solid barrier, we have an equal pressure, right? But they never went out into reality like this and took the, you know, a section of their dome or their containment off. They never done any of that. They got it from practicality, practical physics, the very same thing that I'm conveying to you here right now. Again, my methodology has never changed. It's only people's perceptions of me that have changed because their belief system has caused them to have an adverse reaction to what I'm presenting to them. I never changed. They changed. That's their responsibility. So just like JC has highlighted, you get these people that make these assertions. Right? Now what I'm showing you is the very same form of reasoning through practicality. Can't have gas pressure without a containment. Can't have two varying gas pressures without solid containment. If you do, you're going to have an equilibrium happening between the two systems. Same in this regard. Okay? So, back to stationary Earth. Let me just get rid of that. Right. So we've got a stationary Earth, no vector, no motion going on, nothing. But somehow we've got what we call buoyancy, we've got an air bubble rising in that direction. So what do they say? Oh, it's a relative density disequilibrium. It's the relationship between the air and the medium that surrounds it. Now, how do we make sense of that? So, we've got a container, right? We've got some air in there, and then we've got a solid object, right? Now, in their worldview, this solid object accelerates to the ground. Now, as we've understood and we've established, inanimate matter does not move of its own volition. So, in order for you to have an acceleration of that downwards, something external to the body had to act on it to make it go in the direction. So in this case, if this is surrounded by water, they're going to assert, well, the water is pushing it in that direction. How? How's the water pushing it in that direction? Because that's just the way it is. Because you had to use energy to lift it up to here and stuff, which is a whole other aspect of energy. You know, we'll get to this, but for all intents and purposes, somehow you've gave this something, this inanimate matter, like I've moved it to there, so now it's got some property in it where it's got the ability to move back to where it was without, you know, anything acting on it. It's nonsense. These people are bewildered by ignorance, right? So, again, as we've established, we know that the air bubble's moving in a direction because there's a force acting on the vessel causing the air to move in that direction. But in their world, you've got an air bubble rising up, while at the same time you've got a solid object going down. Now they've got a lot of word salad and gibberish that makes no cohesive sense whatsoever. For one, how does the liquid in here know that it's to tell the solid to go that direction and the air to go that direction? Because remember, the air and the solid are inanimate matter. They cannot move in any direction without something external telling them, acting on them to move them in a particular direction. So stationary Earth now has a problem because it's professing an upwards and a downwards force. And as we had established earlier, you cannot have a force acting simultaneously in two opposing directions. There would be two different forces acting through each other, which is total nonsense. Right? So, how does your solid go down and why does your air go up? It's density disequilibrium. It's a relationship between the medium and the bodies that occupy it. Okay, well, the medium's surrounding the bodies in all directions, but yet they don't move in that direction, or that direction, or that direction. Your solid in your world goes in that direction. What told it? What made it do that? Demonstrate how that happens. You can't, because it's gibberish. Inanimate matter cannot move by itself. Let me just take a break because I feel as if I'm going to miss some vital points here and I'm running away with myself, so I'm just going to slow myself down a little bit here. Buoyancy and gravity. So we've got somebody here that's professing gravity, which again we established. Gravity's acting in that direction, right? Well, we have air bubbles gone in that direction. But as we've just displayed for you, in any given case of an accelerometer, whichever direction the force is going in, you're going to have solid, liquid, gas, and the air bubble will move in the direction of the travel. These people want you to believe that the force is acting in this direction while the air goes opposed to it. You cannot demonstrate that. That claim should never be given any credence whatsoever because you cannot practically demonstrate it in any way, shape or form. It's just empty words. It's their cult belief system. Cult, it's just cult nonsense. Gibberish. You know, we're taking claims and we're matching it to practical reality to see if the claims hold up. They're asserting an action in this direction, while air goes the opposite direction. Bullshit. Nonsense. Back to stationary dirt. There's their stationary earphone pillars or something, whatever they want, right? So now we've got this not moving, no vector, nothing, right? We lift an object up and we release it. On a stationary Earth, they believe and claim that the object has now moved towards their stationary Earth. Now, in order for that object to move, something external to it has to move it in a direction. If they're going to say the medium that it's in, so say we're in air is all around it. Why did it go that direction? Because you picked it up. Right? They talk about energy. You lifted it and you gave it potential energy. Now, energy is just another concept. It's not a thing, right? So they'll say things like, well, you've got an object that you picked up, right? And you've gave it potential energy. You've transferred potential energy. Now, transfer is like, say you had two vessels, one with stuff in it and one without, and you take one vessel and you pour the contents into that. You've now transferred something from here to here. When you pick an object up, there is no transference of anything. Nothing. So how does your object, your mass, know which direction to go in without an external factor? The answer is it doesn't. It doesn't do diddly squat. Okay, nothing. Same with an air bubble rising. What's making the air bubble go upwards? The surrounding medium. So now you've got a medium that's telling two different states of matter to go in opposing directions. That's not how force acts, as we've established. Force cannot simultaneously go in two directions. Right. So, their claim, relative density disequilibrium. So if we lend them the nonsense, right? So we've got a vessel now. Now this vessel, even if it's on the Earth or whether it's in free fall, should make no difference. If their claim was true, that it's a relationship between, say, the air and the solid body and the medium, which we'll say is water, right? Then on the Earth, you would see the air bubble rising, and in their model, the solid would be sinking, because their claim is that it's a relative relationship, right? Now, get this. This is where it gets absolutely bonkers now, right? So now we've got this vessel, right? Where we've got a solid object in there. This is their worldview. Moving here, we've got an air bubble moving in that direction, right? Now, the moment this system is released into freefall, this motion of this and this motion of this, the motion in their model, it's an apparent motion in reality, but we'll talk about their model, stops immediately. Stops immediately. Now, they're wanting to assert that the whole system is now moving in unison towards the stationary Earth. So for a start, we've got two opposing vectors, two forces acting simultaneously through and opposed to each other. And at the moment of release, all of a sudden, these two opposing forces are now acting in unison in that direction. Not only that, the force now is applying force to the gas, the liquid and the solid, in order to accelerate them like a uniform solid. Remember what we highlighted earlier? You cannot accelerate a simple accelerometer in any direction without the relative displacement between the materials. Right? So at the point of two forces acting simultaneously through and opposed to each other, at the moment of release into freefall, they all unite magically, and this force somehow is applying varying force, which it would have to do to the gas, the liquid surrounding it, and the solid. One force splintering itself three ways. So now this one force can now apply a bit less force to the gas, a bit more force to the liquid, and a bit more force to the solid, so that they all accelerate in unison. Absolute nonsense. So, we take their claim. Relative density disequilibrium, it's a relationship between the materials within here. So we've got water in here, right? And it's just a relationship with that, right? If that was the case, then when I release this into free fall, what we should see is the air bubble and that still move in their opposing directions, because the claim is that it's a relative relationship between these things and the medium that surrounds them. What do you think happens in free fall? Well, we've already seen it. So, just to refresh. See, that bubble and those two little bubbles are not moving relative to the containment. The claim of relative density disequilibrium states that it's a relationship between that and the medium that surrounds it. While it was connected to the Earth, the air bubble was on its motion upwards. As soon as it's put into free fall, it instantly ceases in its trajectory through the medium until it contacts the Earth, and immediately you can see the push, the force of the Earth contacting it and causing the compression internally and causing the air bubble now to go in the direction of the force. Andrew again demonstrating that you can invert buoyancy and density by applying the direction of force. But in free fall, that separation is no longer present. Have I been screen sharing? Shit. So as it contacts the Earth, or the Earth contacts it, you can see that motion ensues now. The air bubble now wants to go the direction of the force, which is the Earth. As Andrew inverts, accelerates down, you see an inversion of what we call buoyancy and density. Here at this point, Andrew's accelerating this whole thing towards the ground. As I said, you can demonstrate it over and over. The air correlates, goes a direction. The ball bearing with its inertia is still in the same position, and the vessel comes in contact and pushes it. So, relative density disequilibrium and free fall, wow. What happened to the relationship between the materials here and the surrounding materials? Why is it now no longer moving through the vessel? The claim is because at the point of free fall, it's now all accelerating towards the ground. But yet when we see actual acceleration towards the ground, we see the air bubble move in the direction. You can also see the change in shape of the bubble going spherical. because the compression wave is no longer there, because the force, the push of the earth is no longer felt through the bodies. Inertia's not having to be there because there's no force acting in order for you to see. What you're seeing here is that compression due to the inertia of the water, pushing the air bubble the direction that it's being pushed in. Moment of free fall, spherical. Again, when Andrew accelerates it down, you will see that it flattens out at this side and moves the direction of said acceleration. Free fall, no change in its position relative to the medium. So relative density disequilibrium, when it's connected to the earth, is very useful because we can manipulate the density of the medium and we can see changes happening. But if it was purely just a relationship between those materials, then, you know, like in this example, we should see no change. Now remember, according to these people, this whole system at the point of release is all going to accelerate towards the earth. Yet what we're seeing here is the effects of buoyancy while it's still connected to the earth. You can see that buoyancy is present because it's elongated and stretched the spring. Now, when released into free fall, if the acceleration was happening uniformly to every part of this, all the materials here, then nothing should change. But what's going to happen is that because there's no force present at the point of release into free fall, the only force that's in here is the tension of the spring. The spring will recoil back to its original form and magically it now has the strength to take the ball under the water, overcoming buoyancy. See? Nothing should have changed here. If there was a force acting on all the states of matter and accelerating them all uniformly towards the ground. But we did witness a change because the force has been removed. As soon as Andrew let go of it, he was the force because he's connected to the earth, which is pushing upon him. Okay? So, we make that example. Right? So you comprehend it now. Right? If I have a vessel with water in it and I have an air bubble rising through that water, we can conclude, well, the air's moving because the water is pushing the air in that direction. Okay, so we understand the air's inanimate, water's inanimate. Okay, so how can the water be pushing it in that direction? Because the water is being pushed by the vessel. Okay, which is pushing on the water, which is pushing on the air and telling it the direction that it's to go in. Okay, but the vessel can't push on the water unless the vessel, okay, so it's me standing here, holding it while I'm standing here on the earth. So now I'm the one causing the push on the vessel. I'm standing on the earth and the earth's pushing up on me. And we have a chain reaction all the way through the materials that we can observe. And the reason you know that is because you can change the direction and you can now accelerate it in that way. And what you're going to get is a reorientation, and the air is now going to travel the direction of the force. So we know air, inanimate matter, doesn't move of its own. We see air moving. Okay, the water's pushing the air in that direction. What's causing the water to push the air in that direction? The vessel that's containing it's being pushed in that direction. Okay, but I'm holding the vessel. Okay, so I'm being pushed in that direction. What's pushing me in that direction? The fucking earth that I'm standing on. Okay? Very, very simple. Right, I'm just going to nick to the toilet, quick bathroom break. I'll be back in 2 minutes. So, you see the utter nonsense of these two worldviews, these two idiotic childlike models, globe, earth, station, earth. They want you to believe that there's an acceleration towards our earth without the us witnessing the effects of acceleration. You know, it's like making a claim to something and you don't witness the effects of what you observe every other single time. You know, well, somebody's breathe. You know, when we breathe, there's an expansion, contraction of the lungs. You can visibly sit there and watch somebody breathe as their lungs expand and contract. But yet, when they're dead, this is a sort of claim they're making. Yes, they're still breathing, but there's no any mechanical emotional signs of breathing. Oh, but they're breathing. Trust me, it's the same. Oh, there's downwards acceleration without us witnessing the conditions of acceleration. Not only that, we've got the total opposite happening. From a globe earth point of view, there's an acceleration downwards, and we've got solids here and less dense materials here. A total inversion. The reality is that if there's a downwards acceleration, you've got solids here and less dense here. It's inverted. They want you to believe an inversion. They want you to believe there's downwards acceleration with no signs of any acceleration. Because we've got pictures and astronauts and the sun and the stars and stuffs. No. You don't get to jump to intangible phenomena and conceptual gibberish. You don't skip past fucking direct real physics in order for you to maintain your worldview. All you're doing is showing us who you actually are. Pseudoscientists, cult members, pushers of nonsense, trying to get your children to believe in utter crap so that they can maintain the worldview that they benefit from monetarily. Making revenue in all different aspects and different avenues, right? Keeping a worldview going so they can milk it. Simple physics cannot be broken. All that can happen is that you can have your perceptions warped. You can have an incredulous view of physics. You can make believe all you like. The reality is real world physics is demonstrating for you what's actually going on. Okay? The very fact that we can observe air rising, the direction, shows us that the force is acting in that direction. Okay? How can you have a bloody ball with two people with vessels here and air rising that way and air rising that way and that way and that way without it moving in that direction? Oh, there's a magic force acting that way. It's a magic force that's acting that way and air's going the opposite direction of the force. Practical physics shows you, no. Whatever way the vessel's moving, the air goes that direction. No, the opposite direction. It's that simple. Because gravity's vectors towards the centre of the sphere. Okay? Vector. A vector is magnitude and direction. So something's moving in a particular direction. Alright, so it's moving to the centre of my sphere. Okie dokie. Right? So now, as I just said, now we've got an acceleration happening in this direction. Right? With an inversion of what happens with actual acceleration. Because in their idiotic model, air is up here and solids are here, while the force is acting that direction. If the force was acting in that direction, air would be here and the solids would be here. That's physics, mate. That's physics. Take your cult beliefs somewhere else. Away you go and take it back to your wee cult. This is physics. This is for the big boys. We're not into belief systems. Fantasy worlds. Okay? Try again. Yes, Mr. Groovy's house, I did draw it going in the direction. Right? Listen clearly. You're asserting an acceleration without the signs of acceleration. Not only that, you're claiming that when it reaches the earth and touches the earth, you've now got air rising opposed to the direction of the force. That's a pseudoscientific cult belief. All practical physics shows you that the air goes the direction of the force, not opposed to it. You complete and utter buffoon. Told you. Away you go with your lunatic cult gibberish. You're never going to break the real world, I'm afraid. If you're hoping to skew my perceptions, then you've came to the wrong place. You're pissing in the wrong fucking tree here, my friend. So, there's much more to go on with this. As I say, I wanted to trial run this little setup just because it's better for me than trying to sit with a fucking mouse on a whiteboard on the screen and dot it about. I think I can convey things a lot easier this way. Is there any other aspect of this that anybody would like me to talk about just now? I don't see Brenda either. People scream about parachutes all the time. Take a look at vertical wind tunnels the skydivers use and have a good think about what you're saying. Exactly, one man, but this is the problem. They want to skip to their incredulity, things that they don't comprehend. You know, the simple accelerometer drop test showed everything that we needed to see. There's still unanswered questions and things that we have to consider and you know, contemplate. But these people are trying to run away from the real practical physics and jump to some incredulous interpretations of a parachute jumper when they don't really comprehend what's actually going on in there in the first place. But I see these people, I see the little cult groupings, the little snidey bitch circles of hatred and contempt. I mean, they're irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. They've shown their true colours, and only with apologies and some integrity and intellectual honesty would I ever entertain them again, if I ever did entertain them. But at this point in time, they've made their bed, they've established exactly who and what they are, and that's fine. Let them be what they want to be. But they're never going to twist reality and make it something that it's not. That's a fact. So they can go in their little tantrums, their incredulous tantrums of cult mantras and belief systems and wishy-washy, you know, approach if they like. This is hard, cold physics that's undeniable and unbreakable. Okay? As I said before, you know, this separates the wheat from the chaff. What's been conveyed here is concise, backed by practical physics, and can be demonstrated to every single person alive. Not only that, all you people can now recreate these things and witness the glory of true reality for what it actually is. You don't need to listen to anybody anymore. You shouldn't be part of any group or cult, social gathering, oh, I like them, they align with my subjective beliefs and stuff, say, I like this group, and what we're going to do is formulate hatred to anybody that doesn't represent our mental, twisted beliefs. Questions are good, Angela. Question away. Before the resets, well, you know, you look at things like people talk about resets, you know, our system, you know, I'm always conveying it simply as a box. Now, let me just touch on this, because I'm always showing the system and I'm drawing an arrow, like, you know, to us, when we say upwards, you know, to us within it, the force is acting in that direction. So to us, the force relative to us is upwards. Okay? That's a fact. Now, you know, if we're looking from it above, you know, it could be something like this. We could be on an arm like this, and say we've got a little pod, we'll get a wee fucking bit of shape, right? And this is now us here. Right? This thing could be moving in that sort of direction. Right? To us within it, up's always going to be the direction of travel, the direction of force. Now it could be doing this circular path, and it's ever so slight, right? And we maintain a linear upwards motion. Okay? Just because I draw a box like that and I draw a vector, people think that I'm saying it's going on and up in a straight line forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever and ever into infinity. Right? That's not the case. We don't know the full aspects of what's going on. All we know for sure is that the force is acting towards your feet. The motion of the earth is towards your feet. So relative to us within it, we say upwards, an upwards vector. It's a relative position that we're within the reference frame. Its true trajectory is unbeknownst to us. Okay? So, when we talk about resets, you know, and catastrophes, so if we're within that pod, right, and it's moving at a set rate, right, say it's doing 100 miles per hour, and it all of a sudden comes to a stop, zero, then see things that are no tethered down, they're going to just move up and end up here in the air. And once they've lost their upwards momentum, they're just going to stay in their position relative to the reference frame, right? Until the reference frame again begins its motion again. Then it's going to come into contact with all these things, and there's going to be a compression here at the bottom, and things are going to settle. Okay? So anything that's no tethered down is going to go fucking weak up into the air. Water, rock, buildings, if they're no tethered strongly enough, and as the air starts moving again, it's going to all collapse at the base and spread out. That's why water's level, because again, water's inanimate, right? Water has no form, has no ability to do anything. People say it's seeking level, it's no. If I've got a globule of water here in free space, there's no force acting on it. Doesn't have a vector, doesn't have a directionality. As soon as this comes into contact with it, right, what happens is that it spreads evenly until we have what we call level, because level is the perpendicular to the motion vector. Okay? Level is an orientation. It's related to the motion. Okay? That's why water's level. That's why we have a pressure gradient, because the most dense materials are here and the gas is compressed here. As you go further away, it's less compressed. Okay? Because the most compression happens at the point of contact. Okay? That's why where we reside, there's more pressure here. And as you elevate up, there's less pressure, because there's less compression at a higher altitude, because it's further away from the point of contact. But again, don't get me wrong with this, drawing this, is again, we could be on an arm and some device like this, moving in a circular path like that, maybe tethered to some point. Who knows? Who knows? So you get people like Chris that just get yourself a bottle and an Etch-a-Sketch. The drawings that are in relation to the practical physics, Chris Hayes, you're another one of these bum sniffers, son, that doesn't have a fucking clue what they're talking about. Yet sat on my fucking lap for years, regurgitating and repeating, and now you're here what? Because you don't like reality. Away you go back to your bitch circle, son. Piss off. Away back and talk the back off of people. Leave physics to real people that comprehend what they're talking about. Deal with the content. Deal with the practical physics that's been shown to you. You make a response and you tell me your physics of your fucking world, son. Let's see how you go on. The reality is you don't have a fucking clue and you're going to get spanked left, right and centre. Don't take it personally. It's just your lack of ability to reason and discern. Okay, Chris, you don't think the Earth's rising, right? So, when we've got air bubbles rising in that direction, what's causing the air to rise in that direction, Chris? Let's hear your intellect. Let's see what you've got to offer us. Show me your reasoning. And then you'll have qualified yourself to be an opposer. Without giving me a qualified reason, you're not an opposer. You're just a little bitch, son. So qualify your position. Let's hear it. Explain. Why is air moving in that direction? Why does it cease moving through the medium when it's released into freefall? Let's hear it, Chris. And the rest of your little cult gathering. Let's hear your incredible intellect. No evidence. Chris, I've just sat and gave you a plethora of practical real world physics. And all you're saying is, nah, some nonsense here, we can't leave the reference frame. Okay, Chris, so the Earth's stationary. How do you know it's stationary? Because you can't leave the reference frame. You complete and utter spastic, son. You've dug yourself into a wee hole, right? And that's your problem, no my problem. You're still triggered and I live rent-free in your mind. That's why you're here, sunshine. And you've got nothing to qualify your position. Diddly squat. Other than, nah, I don't understand. So, nah. Pathetic. Fucking pathetic. I'm glad dipshits like you are fucking gone. Wheat from the chaff. See you later. Listen, Chris. When the vessel's connected to the Earth, right, we've got a definite motion of air moving through the vessel, right? Now when I release it into freefall, the air bubble stops moving through the medium. But yet as soon as it's connected to the Earth, bang, it goes again. Now, as I've explained, I can qualify what's happening because I can change the direction of this thing, and whatever direction I push it in, the air's going to go the direction that it's being pushed. What's your reasoning now, Chris? I've explained mine. I can demonstrate it. I can back it up. What's yours? What's your backing up? What physics do you have? I'm never going to get any physics from them because they don't have any. Because they've got a belief system in utter crap. I guarantee you're not going to get anything. You're just going to get some incredulous response that's no cohesive, that offers nothing in any way, shape or form. can't explain it in a text. It should be very simple, Chris. Don't explain, demonstrate your position. What is causing it? Because Chris is a stationary earther, right? He doesn't comprehend it within a moving reference frame. Relative to you within the reference frame, you can say you're stationary. But we've got effects going on, like air rising. And then when we release things into free fall, air stops rising. Right? You can't explain it, Chris, because you don't have anything. I'm not giving Chris any more attention till he offers something cohesive. It's just a waste of time. He's just looking for bits so he can run his little cult group and he say, ha 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 ha, I triggered Del, ha 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 ha, like he's fucking won the world or something. Pathetic, squibbling fucking bitches, these people, honestly. A waste of fucking breath. I'll tell you your fucking worldview, Chris. You believe you're on a fucking stationary earth, and when I release this in, magic happens. You want me to believe, Chris, that there's an acceleration towards a stationary earth without the physical effects of acceleration, just the same as a globe earth, because in a globe earth, they're saying the same. There's a downwards acceleration without witnessing the effects of said acceleration. Yours is the same as theirs, Chris. You're a globe earther, son. You don't even comprehend it. I warned you to make sure you know the bed that you're making for yourself. Because it's a fucking smelly, shit-filled bed that you've just wrapped yourself up in. See, the thing is, Rom, I don't want to have any sort of animosity between these people, but these people have misrepresented and attacked me en masse. Right? Attacked me on hilarious, Chris. Where you go, wee man? You're a waste of fucking breath, sunshine. You're no welcome here. See you later. You're hilarious, wee man. You're a fucking joke. You're the butt of all jokes because you're hanging about with flat derps and fucking stationary mongs making an absolute cunt of themselves. Right? You lot all opted for fucking dipshits. With pseudoscience and fucking contradictory statements and fucking absolute gibberish. That's your cult. Away and play with your cult. You don't belong here. This is for people that embrace reality and want to actually learn about how their reality functions. Exactly, Natalie. Flair for Glober, they're just the same. There's no difference at all. It's not my fault that they don't comprehend their own claim. Bobby Steels, what's he up to? Not for Cube Earther, I enjoy this. See what I mean? You know, this is the only option they've got is to take literal what you're showing, like I'm claiming the Earth's a cube. I mean, they're that spasticated, they're that fucking dumb. That's the only option they've got, is to misrepresent you. Bunch of pathetic, needy, little manipulative derps, a lot of them. There's nothing to believe. It's not me that you're no believing, Bobby. It's reality that you don't accept, son. No me. I've just conveyed reality to you. It's your problem. Exactly, Thomas. They will not admit they were wrong. Do you know why? Because they made an arse of themselves by attacking me, right? And jumping on a bandwagon, right? Exactly, Rachie. As Rachie writes, I would suggest those arguing against you dismissing your claim demonstrations steel man your position before going forward in conversation. At least then you know their understanding of it. Well, that's very difficult, Rachie, because they don't have the ability to, because they don't comprehend it. They're listening to nonsense and then coming and trying to ascribe that to me. They can't steel man it because they don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about. Relative to us, the Earth is moving upwards, urban spaceman. Yes. And that's, but it's bits like that they miss. You know, when you say relative to us upwards, it's like they don't have the intellectual capacity to comprehend that statement. Relative to us, the motion of the Earth is upwards. They don't have the capacity to comprehend that. Remember that time Bobby Steele's? Remember that time Bobby Steele's? Aye. Nobody remembers you now, mate. You're forgotten already, son. Derp. Sick and tired of the flerf world. I'm absolutely astounded at the utter stupidity, the utter dumbness of these people. It's fucking frightening. That one time at band camp. Well, you would think so, Atomic. I mean, it's an objective discussion, but we have so many camps of people with bias who want to defend the bias. They want to bastardise practical physics. They want to invert practical physics. They want to twist it and assert with rhetoric over the top of practicality. You know, a simple accelerometer, we can all observe what happens when a force is acting in a particular direction. Every single one of us can observe that. These people come along and try and superimpose rhetoric over the top of that negates it. Not only that, inverts it. And I mean, how I can't deal with that sort of reasoning. I just, my mind just goes numb. Oh, there's no an elevator constantly going up. Listen carefully. Relative to us. Relative to us. Okay? So see, you got all this pish. So you know the main parts is accelerometers. What happens in free fall? That's what's in contention, right? And we can establish what's going on and how materials act. Like, you know, the vessel, when a force is applied in a direction, we get the most dense at the point of contact and the least dense away from it. You know, not only that, we'll see air travelling the direction, right? What was I saying there? Sorry. Aye. So rather than deal with this physics part here, right, what they'll say is, oh, you say the Earth's moving up. Well, what's it moving through? If your Earth's moving up, I better not draw a square, I better draw a triangle this time, just so that they don't get stuck on the square part, right? What's your Earth moving through? Well, I hate to break it to these people, right, but see, in order for any three-dimensional matter to exist, it needs three-dimensional space to exist in, right? So regardless of whether we're in, you know, a motion that's tethered, like, you know, something like that, or I better put a triangle on it just for the dumb fucks, you know, whether we're on something that's tethered that's moving like that, you know, or it's moving in some other fashion, there's a space outside of it, because matter, solidity, requires three dimensions to occupy, okay? So it's the same with any Earth. You know, oh, let's take a stationary Earth, right? Let's take a wee fucking stupid stationary Earth on pillars and stuff, right? And then we'll say, well, what's outside your stationary Earth? Because like any Earth, you require three-dimensional space to be outside it, whatever that is. You know, it could be something, space with a medium, it could be whatever. Oh, but you don't know. Oh, well, therefore your stationary Earth is nonsense. And not only that, you know, these pillars that it's resting upon, what are they pillars resting upon? Are they pillars resting upon another surface? Okay, well, what's that surface resting upon? Is that on pillars also? And then is that on another? Is that on pillars? And is it infinite? Is it infinite pillars all the way down on your stationary domed Earth? Is it infinite? Is space infinite around it? Is your pillars infinite? Do they go to infinity and they're not actually attached to anything? I mean, what are we talking about here? You bunch of fucking imbeciles. Total and utter imbeciles. But we've to ignore the practical physics because I need to know what's going on outside. No, never mind the physics of what's happening in here. Forget that. Nuh-uh. You don't know what's happening outside, so the physics that's happening inside are negated and stuffs and reasons because I'm logicals. Because I'm dead logicals and I'm a flirter and I'm a truther and I'm woked. Right? You big baldy fucking tattooed Scottish angry sweary bastard. Fucking numpties, man. Pathetic fuckwits. Away and argue about how the final experiment projected a sun into the sky and they used green screens and oh, somebody had a vape. Oh, somebody's vaping and no. Away and fucking argue about that, you clowns. Don't waste my fucking time. Right? You obviously don't comprehend physics. Fucking ball bags. But the Bible, but the Bible says it's immovables and stuff. See, so practical physics is to be forgotten about because the Bible, because my book says words that I've interpreted to mean what I want them to mean. See if I've got a fucking roller coaster, right? That's set on pillars, right? And I've got a wee fucking roller coaster moving through the roller coaster, right? Guess what? See that track? It's immovable from its path, right? The roller coaster's immovable from its path, right? Just like the Earth, if it was in some system like that, and this was our Earth, right? And it was doing this, it's immovable from its path, right? It can't veer off of its path. It doesn't mean that it's no moving because it says immovable. But that's what I wanted to mean because it makes me feel so safe and secure and stuff. Fucking incredible amount of stupidity. Incredible amount of stupidity. I say before, I'm glad I have no association to flirt them because they're a bunch of fucking imbeciles. Now we've got Estelle's ego and stuff. Never mind my subjective components that I bring to the table. Deal with the fucking real world practical objective physics. Right? Stop trying to sway people now by trying to tarnish my character. Oh, Dale's got an ego and this and that and that. Everybody's got an ego. I don't have a false ego. Right? I don't think I'm something else that I'm no. Right? But I've got a healthy respect for myself. I've got a sense of self. Yes. So I have an ego. Yes. So does everybody. You absolute clown. Again, these stupid flirts say words that they don't even comprehend. They've just got an unhinged negative connotation attached to it that has no sensibility to it whatsoever, and they just throw it and brandish it about willy-nilly like they think they're making valid points. Exactly, Marky. But there's a difference between ego, sense of self, the I, than, you know, me coming on here and trying to portray myself to be a certain way that I'm no, or, you know, professing delusions of grandeur and this, that, and the other. There's a difference. Again, people just say ego, ego as if it's an all-encompassing, you know, objective meaning to the word. It's no, there's connotations, there's context to the word ego, and where you're placing it and what we're actually talking about. But this is flares you're dealing with here. So, you know, it's difficult to have any kind of cohesive discussion with them about anything. Exactly, selling Ellie. They just fall for it. They're in victim, scary, hairy, fairy fucking nonsense, you know. Like they actually believe that they're some sort of God's woken children and that they're fucking superior to us all, and although they sit there day after day spewing utter bile and hatred and nonsense, confusion, right? Well, they sit there professing biblical stuff and this, that, and the other. They're a bunch of fucking clowns. Exactly, RJC, and that's it. You know, anyone going against what Dell's presenting is going against physics, not against Dell, because what I'm presenting to people, they can go and achieve right now themselves. They can go and recreate it right now. They don't even need to sit here listening to me. Exactly, Andrew. The operating parameters of reality we are all subject to have been set, fixed, and are immovable. Exactly, mate. And Andrew's a biblical person. But he's not a selective, intellectually decrepit biblical person. Has the ability to comprehend and move forward and reanalyse things that he may have taken a perception from. That's the difference. It's the difference between an honest person and a fucking cult lunatic. It's never true, zero G, because unless the objects have lost all upwards momentum, right, it still has to have time to lose the upward momentum. Now, as I spoke about before, there would be ways to check that. What else did I want to say in this regard just now? As I say, this is just a kind of trial run so that I can chop this up and just make more concise upload videos, and I'm just going to keep taking, I'm going to start logging all these statements and things that these morons keep making, and I'm just going to make ridicule videos with real practical physics, and I don't even need to say anything. I'm just going to take their statements, present their statements, and then demonstrate what physics shows you. Wire Blues is another one with a biblical background that is, you know, has the ability to comprehend and resolve and readdress and move forward. People should be looking up to these people and taking a leaf out of their book, right? Because they're demonstrating and showing what it means to have integrity, to have intellectual honesty, and to walk your path with clarity and honesty. But no, these pseudo-intellects with a messiah complex, full of delusions of grandeur, professing themselves to be this, that and the other, well, they do nothing but spew absolute derp. probably, Mick, probably beyond belief. You know, but they've got some emotional attachment to me, so they feel like they're going to lose face because they think I'm the same as them, that I'm going to lord it over them in some shape or form. I'm not interested in lording over anybody. I don't play one-upmanship games with people. It doesn't float my boat. It gives me no sustenance whatsoever to have one-upmanship and lord things over people. That's their projection. That's why they have a problem. Because this can't be made any more simple for them, and they still go into denial. Whatever, Prime Mover. We're of a straw man, the Globe. Explain. I've corrected Flerfs for your fucking Globe Earth nonsense. It's funny, RJC, because recently I was watching, like, I seen Nat Chiquetta and I seen the boy TNT. Andrew had sent me a link to the guy TNT trying to have a conversation with some Flerfs, and because now he has clarity of thought and clarity of practical physics, you can see in their eyes when they're listening to these Flerfs spewing garbage about electricity and magnetism and stuff, that you can see it in them, that they can see clearly it's just gibberish. When you detach from these people and you get back to your own discernment and you embrace practicality, real world stuff, it becomes very clear for you. Then if you get back to these settings, you can see how lost these people are. And I have compassion for these people, don't get me wrong, right? But to the point where they're spitting in my face and doubling down on their blatant wrongness, that's when I lose compassion for them. Flair-fiating, aye. Gibberish with confidence, exactly, Lomond. That's exactly it. And the thing is you've met these pseudo-intellects in your life. The majority of these people are regurgitating mantras that they've heard from people who are pushing electrostatics and RDD and all this other crap, right? And they repeat it, but they don't really comprehend what they're saying. You can tell when they're trying to convey it. Right? And as soon as you poke beneath the surface of the surface mantras, you establish very quickly that they have no foundation in it whatsoever. They don't have a clue what they're even trying to convey to you. So I see what you mean. Right, okay, Prime Mover. This is where I've corrected Flair's before. I was utilising that as a point I was making. So in the Globe Earth, right, you know, and I've addressed Flair's with this, right, because they'll say, oh, well, Einstein says that the Earth's accelerating, right, and the objects don't actually fall. It's the Earth that's accelerating towards the object and stuff and things. Well, in this model, you've got this thing called space-time. There's like a warping stuff going into the centre of the fucking sphere, right? Some warpy-dorpy fucking stuff, right? So what they're saying is that it's not an actual acceleration outwards of an expanding globe. When the objects meet the Earth, the globe Earth, the internal pressure of the globe Earth is the resistance, right? And that's what they denote as the upwards acceleration. It's not a true proper acceleration. They're just denoting that the resistance of objects being pushed in or pulled in towards the centre of the gravity mass, right? When it reaches the surface of the Earth, there's an upwards push here because that's the resistance when it meets the surface of the Earth, right? Same problems have arised. You know, you've got a globe Earth, you've got a little fucking vessel. The vessel has to be moving towards their globe Earth because it's not expanding outwards in every direction. but yet this acceleration shows no signs of acceleration, or a special plead that it's a special type of acceleration. And then when it meets the Earth, you've got this inwards acceleration, while at the same time you've got air bubbles rising against the acceleration. It's just nonsense. It's just total nonsense. But this is them trying to word salad the physics of reality with this fucking crap. And this dipshit thinks I don't comprehend that. I comprehend it very well. Thank you very much, arsewipe. I expect an apology to appear on my screen right now. Yes, Lomond Men TB. Put on Excel. Here's the thing, right? This is how you know apparent motion and true motion, just as Lomond's put. So let's say we've got a little helium balloon here, right? And we're holding it. And at the same time, we've got a lead weight, right? And on both, we attach an accelerometer, right? Now, in these models, it's claimed there's upwards and downwards motion, right? Yet, when we release the helium balloon, guess what's going to happen with this accelerometer? It's going to register the acceleration, the force. But yet, when we release this one, this accelerometer goes to fucking zero. Because this has an apparent motion vector and this has a true motion vector denoted by the accelerometer. You release the helium balloon, you get a register of it. You release the lead weight, the accelerometer goes to fucking zero. Done and dusted. End of. I did steel man it, fanny wank. You keep spewing your diet, your bile in my comments here, your chats, you're getting removed, fuckwit. Yes, RJC, it is the end of discussion. One has true motion, one has apparent. Accelerometer detects it. Who knows? These people are desperately weak. As I showed earlier with the Kens of the world, he thinks that the Earth has to constantly accelerate, i.e. its velocity increases. Yet, if I take off from the Earth's surface and I move upwards at 1 miles per hour, the gap between me and the Earth's surface increases. It gets greater and greater and greater. If the Earth had an increase in velocity, then I would never be able to escape the Earth's surface moving at 1 mile an hour up the way. End of. Done. Ta-ta. Rethink your nonsense, please. You don't put it past the creator, so now we've got a mystical creator that gives us the ability to understand the creation but injects some mystical nonsense into it, Thomas. I mean, what you would have to assert then is that, you know, the creator has, every little piece of matter has something in it that tells it what to do. I mean, it's that or matter's just dead and the creator simply puts the system into motion and it all sorts itself out with solid here, liquid here and gas here. But no, that's too simple. It's a creator. So what he's done is he's gave air different information and told it what to do, and he's gave liquid different information and told it what to do, and he's gave solid different information, he's told it what to do, and it all knows what it's doing because it's all like programmed with sentience and stuffs and things and bits and bobs. But yeah, I can just simply invert it in a different direction and watch all the matter reorientate relative to the direction of the force. So I can't reprogram matter and tell it to go different directions. I don't have access to fantasy worlds like that. So I highly doubt that the creators endowed me with the ability to assess my reality and then made stuff that I can't access and I can't demonstrate it. I mean, I can demonstrate this. I can't reprogram air matter or liquid or solids and tell it to move and stuff. I don't know how that would function. The Prime Mover, you're very welcome to join me right now. Prime Mover thinks that, you know, this is a cult and people's voices are being, you know, quashed and stuff and whatever nonsense. But come and join me right now. Come and join me. I'm here. Would you like a link to join me? The Prime Mover. Would you like a link to join me, Prime Mover? You're very welcome. Good on you, Natalie. Now the Prime Mover's about to get removed. If it doesn't say yes, it wants to join me, it's getting removed. You like that, Rom Fanny Wank? See, cognitive dissonance, incredulity, Dunning-Kruger, it's very real. And you're seeing it in spades, particularly in the Flerf movement. No, Maker Marks, there's nobody making me do anything. I'm doing this off my own back. I enjoy them coming in and I enjoy giving it to them. It's my entertainment. Please don't misconstrue the relationship here. They're here reacting to me. I'm not reacting to them. I never made them come here. Why is Bobby Steele still here? Nice one. How many Bobby Steele's accounts have you got, for fuck's sake? Are you that fucking desperate? No, as soon as you put the offer out there, apparently their voices are not being heard. You know, and Ken Langalois, the pusher of the accelerating earth, has just been totally and utterly fucking deflated, because the fact that I can elevate myself off the earth at a steady 1 mile per hour and continue and gain altitude relative to the earth's surface proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the earth's surface is not accelerating. End of story. There should be no more derp to be heard from them. Exactly, Andrew. They just don't think about what they're spewing. You know, they just do not think about the nonsense that they're saying. That's embarrassing, Nasty Fripples. And the derps that sided with him are just as fucking bad, because they obviously don't think with clarity either. You know, these morons that have jumped ship and splintered and trying to create division. Oh, the earth is to accelerate. Oh, derp. Oh, is it? Exactly, Rachie. Rachie, you've been about this long enough to see this game that gets played, you know? People can't say yours is the only voice you want heard when you offer opportunity to come in for a chat. Even if not now, surely they can ask to arrange at a time and date. Exactly. Exactly. It's always the same, Ron. Always the same. But as I say, it's a reflection of them, and at the end of the day, they're only here to try and skew the bewildered's perceptions. You know, they're not going to skew mine. They're not going to affect me in any way, shape or form. Because they depend on the sway of peers and others and acceptance and validation. Again, they better take a look at who they're actually dealing with here. I do not give a fucking rat's bumhole about validation and acceptance for any of these people. None whatsoever. Exactly, JC. Nothing but open panels. Nobody's running from the discussion. It's these people coming and poking you in the back and then running away as if they've made a point. They don't just come in and have a discussion because they're incapable, because what they're pushing is total nonsense. Yeah, they're useful idiots and I'll use them when it suits me. See, to put it in perspective, I come on here, they come to me. Like they're like the little flies that see the light bulb on, and they come flying to me and then blame the light bulb for them flying into the light bulb. That's how retarded they are, right? And the reality is as soon as I switch this off, I give them no thoughts whatsoever. None. Couldn't care less about them until I decide I'm coming back on. And then if I decide to spit in their direction, they should be grateful for me spitting in their direction. Right? But they don't even have that appreciation that the one they're drawn to is giving them the time of day. Again, it's a measure of them, no of me. Okay? As soon as I switch this off, could not give two fucks about them. It's not a presupposition, it's a conclusion. The cult, this is another thing that they spew crap about. It's a presupposition. It's not a presupposition. It's a conclusion. A rational, logical conclusion based on practical reference. Okay? There was no presupposition. I never went, do you know what? The earth's moving and I'm going to go to seek to prove it. No. I listened to claims and then I understood accelerometers, how matter behaves. I went out in reality, checked to see what these claims were, and made a conclusion, a realisation of what was actually occurring. Not a presupposition. Get it right. Presupposition is when you start from the bias and seek to interpret, to fit it. I did not do that. I came to the conclusion because reality left me no other option. There is no other option. If you think you've got another option, come in and demonstrate it for me. By all means. Again, a projection on their part. They're the ones with the presupposition, which is why they have such a knee-jerk emotional reaction to real-world physics, because real-world physics flies in the face of their beliefs. Because they have a presupposition, a belief system. Then I come along and show an aspect of their belief system that totally defies their belief system, and they don't like it. Pathetic. I don't care what you are, I never made mention of that. I addressed your point. Now, this is another thing that they don't do. They do not concede, they do not acknowledge. He's just made a point, it's a presupposition. I've explained it's not a presupposition, it's a conclusion based on logic, rationale, reason, through practicality. Now, are you going to address that and say, okay, I was wrong, it wasn't a presupposition, rather than straw-manning me, misrepresenting me? Huh? Does this character have integrity? Let's see. I've seen you, Angela. Again, I sometimes have a little stab about just to see what's going on, and I see the behaviour of these people and how they treat you. It's absolutely fucking despicable. Absolutely disgusting. And these are spiritual, woo-woo, woke fucking do-gooders, apparently. And they're treating somebody like Angela with fucking total contempt and disregard. I've seen it. It's incredible. Yes, Jacqua, exactly. Presupposition equals stationary. Exactly. That's a presupposition. And as I've explained to these people before, you know, regardless that the Earth's in motion, you know, relative to them, I better not draw a square, for fuck's sake. You know, I've got the heebie-jeebies about drawing a square. Let's draw a fucking triangle. You know, if this system's in motion, right, and you're within it, and it's a constant, then it's a constant. You're at rest relative to the frame of reference, right? And when you look over and you see other things at rest, then relative to you in here, then to you relative to within it, you're stationary. Yes, and an object at rest is stationary relative to you, and yada yada. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to understand it's a relative relationship. It's not the true physics of what's going on. It's a subjective interpretation because you're within it and your relationship to the aspects within the whole system that's in motion. So relative to you within it, you can say it's stationary. But physics will show you that it's not stationary. There we go. You're seeing them now. You can see them clearly. Just let them display themselves for you. Pathetic little fucking dweebs. Absolutely pathetic. The state of them. I live in their mind. I live in them. Rent free. Unburdened. I am in their mind. And they fucking hate it. And they come here puffing their feathers up trying to act big, when the reality is, just as I said earlier, I'm the light. They're the little fucking moth that came to the light and continue to bash their head off of the light, pointing their finger at the light, blaming it. Look at the state of them. Look at them. Anywho, I shall leave it there for now. Let me see here. Anywho, thank you very much, everyone. I shall get off just now, and I'll catch yous no doubt at some point in the near future. Got a few things planned, so we'll just see what unravels from there. Alrighty, take it easy.